I'm Jenna from Tiny House Giant Journey. We're here at Art Cormier's tiny house in Lafayette, Louisiana. Let's go take a look. This is Art, and this is my dog who's infiltrated on this tour. She usually does.
Yeah, she's very welcome.
Yes, but we are here visiting Art. He's let us park our tiny house next door, and we're old friends, but this is the first time I've seen his house.
There goes the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know. So go ahead and take us through.
Well, this is the great room, as we like to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the tall ceilings, kind of the main entranceway. Have a love seat sofa that doubles as a guest bed when it's folded down.
Does it folds down then?
Yeah, both the little wings fold down, and it kind of takes up that whole slot.
Now, I immediately noticed that your house is rather minimal.
Well, I do have kind of an unfair advantage in that I'm parked right behind my climbing gym, and I do have some storage there for climbing gear, tools.
Mm-hmm.
Tools would be my biggest thing to get rid of. But other than that, I just don't have a lot of stuff. I do have some storage under here, which is mostly just extra bedding and stuff for guests. You can see my corner for hammock and whatever else I need. And yeah, I just don't have a lot of stuff. I decided a long time ago not to build all the shelves out like most of the plans call for. I just kind of built them as I went.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to have limited what I brought into the house from
Yeah,
the beginning.
if you don't build it, you won't fill it.
Yeah,
What you
yeah,
always
that's
say,
what I
right?
always say. So this is the kitchen. So I borrowed a lot from the sailing industry with my with the whole thought process and the equipment. So it's a one-piece stainless steel countertop with the sink is built in, which I'm really happy with because I mean there are no joints or seams or anything to leak, and the backsplash is continuous. So literally,
Yeah. So how did you get this made?
a custom commercial kitchen company. I had to give them very specific dimensions on how it was going to be built, and they built it.
Was that a pricey part of your
It
tiny
was.
house?
I think this countertop was about $1,400.
Oh yeah, but it's beautiful. I mean, I love that it's a built-in sink and everything. The backsplash, it just looks really sleek.
Yeah, so here's another advantage. I had this is a fridge from a sailing boat, so it's a chest type instead of the bend over, and this had to be built into the countertop as well.
So you had all your appliances picked out before
Yeah.
you had the countertop made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is a cutout as well. Again, this is a sailing deal. What I like about this is I don't like the black glass, first of all, because it shows all the dirt. But it's well built. I mean, everything is designed. If you imagine being shaking around on a sailboat, you don't want stuff bouncing around. So everything locks in tight. I mean, there's no shake or rattle when it's down.
And how do you like your refrigerator?
Well, it's still an ongoing experiment. Let's see, right now, can you see that? What is it? It's 34,
Yeah.
36?
36 maybe, yeah.
It can be a freezer or a fridge. It's a rather small space, but it is only one temperature. Now, it does have a little pull-out basket so you can access stuff on the lower level.
Oh, yeah. Beer and whatnot.
Beer and whatnot. And it is not a frost-free, which is you don't want a frost-free because those are not as efficient, I believe. But the downside is, first of all, it's small, and if you buy a lot of groceries at once, it would be a difficult thing. The other thing is, with one temperature, I can either have my lettuce or spinach not frozen, and my beer is not quite as cold as I'd like, or I can have the beer at the temperature that I like, but end up with frozen lettuce.
That's a tough one right there.
It's a tough deal.
How do you pick? How do you choose?
My original thoughts when I installed this, knowing that it was going to be small, I thought, well, if it turns out where it's not enough room, I still have enough room to put an under-counter fridge somewhere, and I'll just turn this into a freezer. But I haven't, I've made do.
Decided to do that, yeah.
And I do go to the store more often because I don't buy a lot at one time, but I think that's not a bad thing.
No, it means you eat fresher as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And now the unit comes with, this is the lid, and I just added this lid, this cutting board to it to make it a lid. What I would do in the future though, is I would recess this so it's all level.
Oh, all level.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a normal cutting board would be sitting on here, so it's actually a hidden refrigerator.
It is.
Which is kind of nice. So, what kind of wood are you using here on your floor and your paneling?
So, all of the siding, all of the interior walls and dividing walls are cypress, and this is new cypress. Most of the beams, the structural beams here, are antique cypress, stuff that I reclaimed, and the floor is reclaimed pine that came out of some really old building, and it was horrible looking before I planed the top surface off. But
So, tell me about your LED lights.
well, these were meant to be under counter lights, and these came in a kit. It was 10 feet of LED lights, and they're surface wired, and they're all 24 volt. So I just mounted them on the surface, and the wires are visible, which I'm okay with. Normally this would be mounted under your counter, and they're touch switches where you just touch them. Oh, they're touch sensitive, and they come on and off. And if you hold your finger on the switch, it goes through a dimming and brightening cycle, so you can get the right amount of light that you want at night. These can be pretty overpowering on full blast at night. So
Are you wired 110 here, or?
I did. My house is kind of odd in that all the receptacles are this high or lower, so the electrical circuit on this level is 110. All of the LEDs are at this level, so the circuit that runs around the house in this at this level is 24 volts DC. So it's two separate wiring circuits, which sounds very complicated, but it's really not. It's all a matter of how you hook them up at the main panel.
Mm-hmm. And you have air conditioning, because he's in Louisiana.
I do.
And it gets hot here.
This is Louisiana, and I intended on doing this. All of my windows are casement windows except for this one. This one is a double hung, and the purpose was to fit that window unit. And it works well. It's the smallest unit I've been able to find, and it cools off the place quite nicely. If they quit making this little unit, I'm kind of in a bind, because you can see the window is just barely big enough for this
Yeah.
unit.
Did you find the unit before you ordered the window?
No,
So you just got lucky.
I got very lucky.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. First of all, I have the standard fiberglass shower stall. It's a 32-inch fiberglass stall available at most hardware plumbing stores.
You have a Nature's Head composting toilet?
Yeah, the composting toilet.
Nice, and probably my favorite part of your house is this door here, because it's just gorgeous.
It's mine too, but it doesn't get shown very often. So it's a Soji paper door, and what I wanted is something lightweight that would slide and not to block out all the light, because the way my house is positioned, the sunlight's either coming from this side in the summer, that side in the winter, and if you would close this if this was a solid door, it would really shut off the light. Mm-hmm. So I really like the way it's quite translucent. You can see the
And you made that yourself?
I did. This was a bunch of scraps, basically. I had to order the Soji paper.
So we should check out the loft, I think. So you just use your ladder right there.
Yeah.
So
the ladder, and this has a story too. Initially, I made this a folding ladder, but determined it wasn't really useful. So now I just hang it right there. It seems to work. I don't have any hooks on it like most folks do. It just kind of rests up against here. But I do have some, it's called sticky rubber. It's the rubber used on climbing shoes on the feet to keep it from skidding out. But it seems to work okay. And it's lighter than I've seen most folks like to make their ladder. It's only 1.5 inches by 1 inch poplar, but it's plenty sturdy.
Yeah. And what size bed do you have up in your loft?
I have a full-size mattress up there, a Tempur-Pedic, so there's no box spring, it's just the mattress.
Okay.
But it's about 10 inches thick. It's a bit thicker than the one you guys have, so it does decrease my headroom a little bit.
Can you sit up in bed, though, up there?
I can sit up.
Show us.
I can sit up in the middle, but I don't have dormers, so, this is as high as I can get. Now, obviously, if I'm on the side of the mattress, I can't sit up straight. But.
All right, well, another thing I want to mention is this beautiful Crawfish stained glass window that you have here.
That was made by somebody local, and it was at a little craft show in one of the parks. And it was a gift, and it's kind of fitting. I was born in local area that's known for crawfish and rice fields, and that's what the stained glass represents.
Yeah, everything in this house represents you, though. No, I mean, that does, of course, but the climbing gear, the bungee cords, I mean, it's all very art. I think the only piece we haven't seen inside so far is your closet. We kind of skipped over that, so it's actually kind of hidden, which is why I think we skipped over it.
Yeah, and this is something I changed, I guess, from the original designs. Most of them put the door on this side, but it just doesn't seem to work with a piece of furniture. And hallways are wasted space anyway. You can't sit here or do anything. So it just made sense to make it open into the hallway. And I didn't intend for it to be hidden, but it does blend into the wall very well.
It does.
And I haven't added a handle, so that kind of adds to that.
Maybe you don't need it. It's, you know, part of the whole minimalist thing. If you haven't needed it yet, maybe you don't need it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got plenty of space in there. I think your closet's bigger than mine, so I'm a little jealous.
I haven't seen your closet. Where is your
It's
closet?
because it doesn't really exist.
Okay.
I'll show you later. So this is the outside of Art's home. Tell me about the siding.
Well, the exterior is all antique cypress, and in Louisiana that was the prime building material of old because it was a local wood and it's very resistant to rot and insects. And so the siding came from reclaimed buildings and churches in the area. Some of them I tore down myself, and I had to supplement with some that I bought from resellers.
So you're parked behind your rock climbing gym.
Yeah.
What's the commute like?
Oh, it can be terrible. Sometimes there's sticks on my trail, and it takes me another 10 seconds to make it to the back door.
I can actually see where you've walked. Now that you mention it, there's a little bit of a game trail going on here.
Yeah, I'm trying to spread it out so I don't beat the grass down too much, but it's, you know, habits are hard to break. So, here's my electrical hookup. Is just a 110 standard extension cord. Goes to a primary breaker box, and then it goes into this little. This is kind of the brains of my house. When I talked about earlier how I have the wiring done in 110 and 24 volts, it's really not as complicated as it sounds. All the wires come through my house right here. Some of them, you can see the ones that are still yellow, go straight to 110, and other ones hook into this 24 volt transformer. So it's really easy to divide where what kind of power you send through your house if you think about it ahead of time. This is my propane tank. It runs my hot water heater, my on-demand hot water heater, and my cook stove. And the reason it's wrapped up like this is this winter I actually had an issue where it got so cold there wasn't enough pressure in the propane tank to fire up my hot water heater. So I did a little research, and it's about if the tank gets too cold, it loses pressure. So I just wrapped a little pipe warming heat strip around it and some insulation, and that seemed to do the trick.
Right, and for gray water, since you are on your own property and you're using just out of the shower and the sink, do you kind of just let it flow to water your grass, or? I
do. I have a system where right now it's still pretty primitive, but I can direct it to different plants, and I have a lot of fruit trees on the property, and they seem to do really well with the water.
Yeah, those are citrus trees, right?
Yes. And you have to just be careful that you select soaps and products that are okay for, they call it biodegradable and direct plant discharge safe.
Right.
So it doesn't harm the plants.
Right. Okay, well, great. Thank you so much for taking us through, and thanks even more for letting us park on your property for a few days.
It was nice having a neighbor.
Yeah, there we go. It's a tiny house community for a couple days, so it's kind of nice. Anyway, until next time, see you later.